This is the Mountain Pass mine in California, the only rare earths mine in the U.S. If you are like many people, you're probably unfamiliar with neodymium, gadolinium, dysprosium, and more than a dozen other oddly named rare earth minerals. But you probably are familiar with smartphones, computers, television sets, cars, solar panels, wind turbines, and hundreds more technological devices, including advanced weapons, all of which are made possible by the special magnetic and conductivity properties of rare earths.
Rare earths had electronic properties which caused a manufacturing and technology revolution. This is basically what's allowed the absolute universality of high technology.
90% of rare earths are mined and processed in China, which also manufactures most of the finished products that include rare earths. China has a stranglehold on processing. Even the ore produced here in Mountain Pass has to be shipped to China for processing.
And we pack it into these slings, and then we ship it to China.
Low labor costs and lax or non-existent environmental regulation keeps China on top. This situation has led to concern over U.S., Japanese, and European economic and military security. If China were to cut off supplies of rare earth finished products, it could devastate the economy.
We also have to push back against unfair trade practices by competitor nations that have hollowed out the U.S. industrial base and undermine our supply chain security.
Despite their name, rare earths aren't really that rare at all.
Right now in the United States, mining companies that mine iron ore or phosphates or zirconium or some other commodity collectively throw away enough recoverable rare earths to meet 85% of global demand.
Kennedy proposes using those wasted minerals in a combined corporate entity to counter China's near monopoly.
Old-fashioned concept called a cooperative. So Toshiba, Siemens, GE, Ford Motor Company, they could all be owners, partial owners of the cooperative, and the cooperative would produce for them finished metallic, alloy, and magnetic products.
Whether that model becomes reality or not, it's clear world leaders have become aware of a global rare earths supply chain problem and are finally taking steps to address it. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
Very pleased to welcome June Teufel-Dreyer to the NewsHour, a professor at the University of Miami who wrote an article titled China's Monopoly on Rare Earth Elements and Why We Should Care. June, I guess we should care because it's dangerous when any one country has a monopoly over anything. But in this case, it seems the Chinese have really exploited it far further than we might have expected.
That is certainly true. And I don't think we realized, that is, some people did realize it, but they weren't being listened to. And it only became clear to us after that nasty fishing boat incident in September 2010, when a Chinese fishing boat rammed and did considerable damage to two Japanese Coast Guard cutters. And the Japanese government wanted to put the captain on trial for damaging state property, which, according to videotapes, he definitely did. And the Chinese government said, no, don't even think about it. Give him back, or we're going to impose a rare earth embargo on you. And this really scared the Japanese because they absolutely need those rare earths for the catalytic converters in their cars. And obviously the car industry is very, very important to Japanese economic health.
So what I'm trying to understand, and it goes from what we heard in that report, someone in Rob's report, who said that actually rare is probably a misnomer. There are plenty of these in the United States which aren't being mined properly. Why is the US missing out on this?
Well, I think the answer is in your word properly, because we used to mine rare earths in the United States. And in fact, given the lesser demand for rare earths at the time, we were doing pretty well in terms of sufficiency. But the problem is with the properly, environmental regulations became much more strict. And we couldn't mine these properly according to the new regulations. So companies switched to outsourcing this to China, where environmental protection regulations, at least at that time, were very lax.
Right.
And of course, costs were lower.
So it comes down to the same old thing, isn't it? Not just in rare earth mining, but in particularly in manufacturing, that so much gets outsourced to a place like China, a lot of the time because it's cheaper and easier. And then the complaints come in later on that, oh, all the work's gone to China and we don't have anything at home.
That's exactly right. And at the time, it was considered, oh, well, this is part of the globalization trend. It's unstoppable. And we will stay ahead on the knowledge chain. We, the United States, Japan, Europe, etc. And we will outsource these lower technology items to China, which is very grateful to get them. And it's good for China because they employ more Chinese, and it's good for us. And it didn't work that way because China was never intending to stay just the factory to the world in rare earths or anything else.
Just quickly, June, you know, there have been wars, conflicts, whatever you want to call them, for years over oil, over land, over water. Are rare earth minerals the kind of thing which could eventually, given the demand, given how important technology is to us, that they could be, you know, fought over in the future?
Well, they definitely could, but there are better ways to deal with this. And one is to incentivize our own production of rare earths. And a lot of research is going on right now on how to environmentally safely produce these rare and process these rare earths. And the Japanese government did seek out an Australian corporation, Lynas, L-Y-N-A-S, that was close to bankruptcy. It rescued it from bankruptcy, and they now produce rare earths in Australia and process them in Malaysia. And I looked into this because I thought, well, are we just outsourcing pollution to Malaysia, which would be a terrible thing to do for poor Malaysia? And it turns out that, at least according to the people I've talked to, this is being done in a sustainable way. So far, that's a win for Japan, for Australia, and for Malaysia. But it's not nearly enough. Japan needs 100% of its needs, and it's getting 30% of its needs from there. The Japanese, who are technologically very competent people, as we all know, did find a lot of potential in an island, an area around an island in Japan's exclusive economic zone, something that is not contested by China, at least yet. And it's called Minami Torishima, if you care to look it up. But the problem is that the processing is very expensive. You are digging through mud, and at present, in a 10-hour day, Japanese are only managing to extract 10% of what would make the extraction price feasible.
June Teufel-Dreyer talking rare earth minerals with us on the News Hour. Thank you for your time, June. We appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.